Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 13th of December, now it's 10 past 12, middle of the day by Moscow time, late update as today. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms for this moment. Second update will be a little bit late in the afternoon, in which I will share latest report of Russian Defense Ministry on progress of special military operation during the previous 24 hours. I do these second updates quite often lately, and yesterday was no exception. And if you are interested to see latest report of Russian Defense Ministry, I devoted separate video to that topic yesterday, so you can check that video. And also yesterday I did upload the second update, second Telegram reports program on Rumble, and please consider to subscribe to my Rumble channel, and if you have a time, check out that video. Also, you may find it interesting. It's about reports that I do on a Telegram. Some news are, of course, I do share in main video updates also, but there are plenty of news that are only on Telegram, so hopefully you'll find it interesting. Now let's talk about news, and first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. There are quite interesting and significant changes. Well, first of all, let's go through sector by sector. Kherson region, Kherson direction, no significant changes. It's still operational pause, I will say. Intensity of clashes are decreasing, and I guess it's only a matter of time now when Russian forces will probably neutralize these small footholds of Ukrainian armed forces on the left bank, because if trap no longer working for as it was intended, then there is no point for Russian side to allow Ukrainian units to maintain this small foothold in Krinky area, settlement on the left bank and right next to Antonovsky Bridge and destroyed railway bridge. But overall situation is under full Russian control, and Ukrainian forces never had even slight chance to achieve anything during that so-called Kherson offensive. When it comes to Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front line, they are somewhat increase in activity, and Russian Defense Ministry did report about it yesterday. And number of casualties on Ukrainian side, for example, almost double in Zaporozhye sector of the front as a result of hostilities, mainly in this Orekhov bridgehead, where Ukrainian forces are basically trapped, and one may wonder how long it will take before Russian forces will encircle Ukrainian grouping of forces in Orekhov bridgehead and then forced to lay down arms and surrender. Situation is under full Russian control. Nothing is happening that can influence line of contact in immediate future. South Donetsk direction, there are quite interesting changes. Russian forces are improving their positions in direction of this settlement, Novomikhailivka, and according to some reports, forward units of Russian army even did enter this settlement, although without photo or video confirmation it's difficult to know for sure. But Russian army in South Donetsk direction are constantly increasing pressure on Ukrainian forces from Vremevsky salient area up to this Novomikhailivka settlement, and I see this increase in activity, local scale still, increase in activity as a preparation of ground for some upcoming decisive actions from Russian forces that we may probably see late January, in the beginning of February. Overall, I will call situation operational pause still, because no decisive actions are taking place at this moment. Donetsk direction, there are very significant changes, I will say. Yesterday afternoon, many Russian military channels did share this video, for example. This video in which you can see last stronghold of Ukrainian armed forces in Marinka have been defeated, and the Russian flag was raised above that strongholds. So now we can clearly say that Marinka, battle for Marinka has ended with the unconditional victory of Russian forces, and the entire settlement now under full Russian control. 95-97% of the settlement was for quite a while under Russian control, but there was some small footholds that Ukrainian forces were maintaining in the western part of this city. But from now on, entire city is under full Russian control, and this very long battle for Marinka, which lasts, one may say, 20 months, finally over, and the city is under full Russian control. Very significant development, because Russian forces now, I'm quite sure, will begin their activities in direction of Krasnogorovka on the northern side from Marinka, and also I guess Russian forces will significantly increase activities in upcoming days and weeks in direction of Novomikhailivka and Konstantinovka, these two settlements in South Donetsk direction. When it comes to Avdiivka, which is also, of course, Donetsk direction, we have reports that Russian forces improved their positions. Russian forces improved their positions in the southern flank of Avdiivka, and according to some reports, forward units of Russian army did enter residential areas. So some clashes are taking place inside the city now. From the southern side, and also I did see reports that Russian forces are conducting reckoning force operation on the northern flank of Avdiivka, and some DRG units even did manage to penetrate defense lines of Ukrainian forces in a chemical plant area and are conducting operations in northern industrial zone, and even entered the residential area from the northern side. But yet again, without video or photo confirmation, it's hard to tell. And yet again, we are talking about DRGs, small units, decisive actions of Russian forces to establish control over the city did not yet begin. But we will, in my understanding, we will see final push towards Avdiivka in next week or two. And in same time, I expect big Ukrainian units to lay down arms and surrender in thousands. So before New Year, I guess Avdiivka will be under full Russian control. Although, of course, I'm no military expert. Russian general staff do not share information with me, and my reading of picture may be mistaken. But that's how I understand the situation. Ukrainian units are in desperate position. They are basically on daily basis asking Kiev regime to let them withdraw from Avdiivka. Morale of Ukrainian forces are quite low. They are on breaking point, so that's why I'm saying that in next week or two, before end of this month, probably a big number of Ukrainian units in this area will surrender, and city will become under Russian control. When it comes to northern flank of Donetsk sector, Bakhmut and surrounding areas, according to reports from Russian media, Russian Defense Ministry, Ukrainian forces did try to conduct some local-scale counteroffensive operations, especially in Kurdyumovka, Klishchevka areas, but these local-scale offensives were repelled by Russian forces, and then Russian side conducted offensive operations. And at this point, I guess no one have any doubts that it's only a matter of days, maybe week also, and Ukrainian units from this area, from the southern flank of Bakhmut, will withdraw, retreat, and they will probably try to establish new defense lines along water channel, along the water wave that goes from Kurdyumovka area and northwards and crosses basically almost in the middle between Bakhmut and Chisov Yar. And also there were reports that Russian forces are conducting offensive operations in direction of Ivanovskaya, and forward units of Russian army, according to some reports, are even on outskirts of Ivanovskaya, Krasnaya, that's Russian name for this village. But at this point, we don't really have a video confirmation of this. So hard to tell. But initiative definitely is in Russian hands, and Russian forces are on offensive all along the front line, basically, with the maybe exception of Kherson region. In Kherson direction, Russian side is holding its lines on the left bank of the Dnieper river. And when it comes to northern sectors of the front, from Seversk to Kupiansk, yet again initiative is in Russian hands. We did see a significant increase of activity in comparison to previous days, and casualty numbers on Ukrainian side almost double in these sectors, on Krasny Liman sector and Kupiansk sector of the front lines. But yet again, no decisive actions yet. At this point, it's just reckoning force operations, local scale skirmishes, and reckoning force operations. Nothing is happening right now that can be called breakthrough. Although Russian forces are increasing pressure, as I said, from in direction of multiple settlements on the northern sectors, and improving their positions for upcoming large-scale Russian offensive, which will take place in this winter. I'm quite sure about it. Well, that's been said. This is short summary on situation and line of contact. Before I continue, let me thank all of you, dear friends, for your time and attention. And of course, special thank to members of our community who support my work with donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. Without your attention and support, this project, these channels would not exist. So thank you very much for letting me work on this project and for your support. Let's talk about some other news now. And Russian media did report, and many Telegram channels, about huge explosions in Kiev early hours this morning. We don't have specific information what was targeted or what from which places these explosions were coming from, but all the channels are basically reporting that the Russian side was conducting missile strikes on logistical and military infrastructure of Kiev regime, and that explosion was a result of these strikes. Probably many of you already are informed that as a result of hacker attack on communications companies in Ukraine, there was some issues with internet, with communication, and as a result, in several regions of Ukraine, including Kiev, air alarms did not go on when Russian side was conducting strikes, and in some areas air raid alarms went on after strikes did happen. So during the day, I guess we will learn some more information about these night strikes of Russian armed forces. And I remind you, dear friends, that yesterday night Russian forces also did conducted strikes on some logistical and military infrastructure in Kiev. So I guess Russian militaries had some intelligence about maybe concentration of military equipment in some areas in Kiev, maybe about production of some weapons, drones, for example, or missiles for multi-launch rocket systems, Soviet-era multi-launch rocket systems. And I guess exactly those areas are targeted by Russian forces. But yet again, from official sources, we don't really have detailed information yet. And you may find this information also interesting, I think. RIA Novosti reported that in Mariupol, which is, of course, under Russian control, first 4 lines of production in a factory that has a name of Ilich have been operating now, did began operations. So as you can see, despite the huge damage that was done to industrial facilities in Mariupol during the fights between Russian forces and Ukrainian forces, Moscow did invest heavily in rebuilding Mariupol, and not just industrial zone, but first of all, of course, residential areas. And now it's time to rebuild industrial capacities of the city, and the first 4 lines are now operational in this factory of Ilich, which was one of the hotspots during the Mariupol operation. So quite interesting news in my opinion. Peaceful life is going back in this city, and city had been rebuilt quite intensively. And well, let's continue. RT is reporting that the US wants Ukraine to fight Russia on a lighter budget. That was reported by New York Times in its articles. Not surprising at all. And not because Biden's administration not yet managed to pressure US Congress to allocate additional billions for Kyiv regime, but because Western ruling class for quite a while now are preparing ground to distance themselves from from mess that they did create in Ukraine. And it's obvious that even if and when this last big financial and military aid will be approved for Kyiv regime, that was proposed by Biden. After that, Ukraine probably will begin losing in a big way financial support from the West. And when it comes to financial support, Zelensky, of course, had a meeting with Biden. And during this meeting, Biden did promise to Zelensky another package of military aid, this time for $200 million. Yet again, Zelensky went to Washington for $61 billion, but he will get only $200 million, which is quite a number, really. In this package, US will give to Zelensky some missiles for HIMARS MLRS systems, high-speed anti-radar missiles, anti-armor systems, artillery rounds, demolition mountains, 4 million rounds of small arms ammunition, generators, and some other equipment. But yet again, point is that Zelensky went to Washington. He was basically called in Washington to give a speech, one or two, and to somehow persuade U.S. Republican congressmen to allocate, to vote for Biden's aid package. But at least for now it did not work. I guess let's read several sentences. U.S. President Joe Biden has promised another $200 million in emergency military aid for Ukraine. He made the pledge during the Oval Office meeting with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky on Tuesday. The meeting comes after a bill intended to provide $60 billion in aid for Kyiv was blocked in the U.S. Senate last week, as Republicans demanded tougher immigration control on the southern U.S. borders in exchange for approving Ukraine assistance. Well, you know my take on this Biden's aid package, which is $411 billion. That includes $61 billion for Kyiv regime, $14 billion for Israel, $10 billion for Taiwan, and some amount of money for border security. I'm quite sure U.S. military-industrial complex will manage to pressure enough Republicans that they will vote for this bill one way or another, and some funds will be allocated for Kyiv regime, because this is the last big paycheck from Ukrainian story for U.S. military-industrial complex, and they're not gonna lose this check, and there is no way. Only question is when this will happen, because I guess it's only a day or two now, and U.S. Congress will go for a winter holiday. So I guess this year they would not vote for this Biden's aid package, and they will come back to topic after New Year's, after Christmas and New Year's celebrations. But eventually, some at least 30 or 40 billion of U.S. taxpayers probably will be allocated for Kyiv regime, and amount of that money, of course, will find its way to bank accounts of US military-industrial complex and corrupt officials, no doubt about that. But this visit of Zelensky in Ukraine was total failure, in my understanding. Total failure, because yet again, major reason was to persuade Congress to vote for this Biden's aid package. And he came to Washington for 61 billion, and he will receive just 200 million. So, I mean, huge difference, isn't it? So this visit was definitely failure. And RT is reporting that EU states consider Plan B now for Ukraine aid. Of course, EU member states are kind of nervous now because they see that Washington is, White House is struggling now to allocate additional funds for Kiev regime. And even if this last aid package from Biden's administration will be approved at some point, it's highly unlikely that Washington will continue to send to Kiev regime in the same scale financial and military support that we see previously. And EU member states, I guess, are afraid now that they're gonna stay alone with this Ukrainian issue, because US is far away and Europe is right next to Ukraine. EU is right next to Ukraine, and they may don't want it no more, but they have to deal with this issue. They have no other options. And they already have problems when it comes to financing Kiev regime, because Hungary, Austria, Slovakia, even Netherlands are questioning Spain, by the way. Spain is also now questions plans of Brussels to finance Kiev regime for another 50 billion euros. And Brussels, because of this opposition inside the EU, Brussels now pushing Plan B, which is that EU member states on their own should allocate funds for Kiev regime, so that this way these vetoes from Hungary and other countries that are opposed to continuation of financing Kiev regime can be, avoided. The question is how many countries in EU are willing basically to volunteer and send from their budgets directly some billions and billions to Kiev regime. I don't think there will be many governments in Europe that will do that. So this Plan B will not work, in my understanding. Germany may send some billions and probably will. Who else? France, maybe, but Spain will probably abstain. Italy may send some funds to Kiev regime, but may not. So, as I said, Kiev is losing all around. Kiev is losing on the battlefield, and Kiev regime is losing in political terms when it comes to relationships between Ukraine and US, Ukraine and Europe. So, and it will just accelerate. This downfall of Kiev regime and modern Ukraine will just accelerate. That's how it's gonna be. Anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary, did made yet another statement that Budapest will block any discussions about Ukraine becoming a member of EU. This will not happen on his watch, because he is quite sure that Ukraine is nowhere near being ready to become a EU member state, and EU already has enough problems, and this accelerated enlargement of EU is not beneficial for organization, which is absolutely correct. And I did see a report about some social studies in Europe. That's the information, dear friends, that only 35% of EU citizens want further expansion of EU. only 35%. So vast majority of EU citizens are opposing enlargement or expansion of EU and don't see any benefits for EU or EU member states if another bunch of countries will join EU, which is quite understandable. It definitely does make sense. But anyway, let's continue. Next hotspot is, of course, Middle East. And TASS news agency has reported that according to IDF statements, according to statements of Israeli Defense Forces, during the previous 24 hours, they did conducted strikes on 250 directions in Gaza. So 250 targets were attacked, and same time, some quite strange stuff is happening. Also, for example, just look at this video. Volley of tank fire towards some, I guess, empty residential buildings. Israeli forces basically are demolishing now everything that they managed to capture, because I mean, I'm not military, but still I don't, even if you are military, I mean, can you explain me why this is happening? I mean, why they are destroying houses? People should, if Israeli government is plan to allow Gaza Palestinians in Gaza Strip to return to their homes once this military operation will end, then why they are destroying their homes of civilians? I mean, this is I don't know, man. And Russian foreign minister did basically said almost the same. Sergei Lavrov did made a statement and said that Israel basically leveling everything in the Gaza Strip, destroying everything. And according to Lavrov, Israeli government thinks that they have every right to destroy Hamas by any means necessary, even if it will mean that entire Gaza has to be, I mean, erased. Entire settlements have to be erased, and unfortunately, that's what they do. That's what Netanyahu's government does. They are destroying everything they can. And this once again brings me this initial reading of picture of mine when I say once this escalation began that Netanyahu's government will probably try to implement Karabakh scenario in the Gaza Strip, which means that they will force Palestinians out of Gaza entirely to Egypt, and then they will permanently occupy Gaza Strip and integrate that area into Israel. That's Netanyahu's plan, in my understanding, on a first stage. And next stage, if they are successful now, then they will be emboldened so much so that it's only a matter of time when they will do exactly the same in the West Bank, which is already occupied, really, and Israel does whatever it wants in the West Bank. So West Bank will be next stage, and I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in the future Israeli government will even try to take some land from Lebanon also, entire southern Lebanon, let's say, on the pretext that they have to fight Hezbollah, for example. I don't know, man. I don't know. Unfortunately, actions of Israeli government are definitely increasing risks that regional countries no longer may maintain neutral or no longer try even to distance themselves from being involved directly in this confrontation, and some huge regional conflict may erupt. Let's hope it will not happen, but I mean, actions of Netanyahu's government definitely are increasing risks of big regional conflict. RIA Novosti is reporting that first power block in Akkau nuclear power plant in Turkey did receive permission to begin its operations, and this nuclear power station built by Russia in Turkey, and well, I guess this is huge deal, of course, economically, in economical terms for Turkey, but also this is a big deal in political and geopolitical terms also, because once Turkey will have an operational nuclear power plant, well, then Turkey's nuclear ambitions may come to the play, because I'm quite sure Ankara does have nuclear ambitions. And once they have technology, once they have nuclear power stations, once they will have experts in this field, then it will be only a matter of, I don't know, time, and Ankara will definitely try to develop its own nuclear weapons. And that's why, in my understanding, Ankara was demanding from IAEA to conduct some revision in Israel, in Israeli nuclear facilities, because if you remember, one of the ministers in Netanyahu's government said openly that during the discussions, use of nuclear weapons was also considered. So that was the first time, if I'm not mistaken, when a high-ranking official openly said that Israel has nuclear weapons. While everybody knows that they do, but this was the first time when someone acknowledged that Israel has such weapons. And I guess Turkey, maybe Saudi Arabia also will definitely try to develop their own nuclear weapons. Saudi Arabia was in negotiations in US, if I'm not mistaken, to build nuclear power station. But after this escalation in the Middle East, I don't think these talks between US and Saudi Arabia will go any far. And therefore, who knows, maybe Russia will receive contract from Riyadh to build nuclear power station there. That's possibility. That's possibility. And Russia is not transferring nuclear technologies, of course, or military-grade nuclear technologies. Russia is building civilian nuclear facilities, nuclear power stations. But once you have expertise in this field, then it's only a matter of technique, and then you'll be able to develop your own nuclear industry and eventually arms-grade nuclear technologies. Anyway, RIA Novosti is reporting that Finland may open, and probably will open tomorrow, at least several border crossings with Russia close to St. Petersburg. In particular, border crossings of Vaalimaa, Nui Ama and Imatra. These border crossings most likely will be reopened tomorrow. I guess Helsinki did not withstand pressure from Brussels. Yesterday I did report that European Commissioner on Human Rights were criticizing Finland for crossing borders with Russia and basically not allowing asylum seekers from all around the world that are trying to use Russia as a transit state to enter Finland. Well, Brussels criticized Helsinki. Helsinki did listen, and I guess they are forced now to reopen borders and eventually receive this wave of refugees. RT is reporting that only 35% of EU citizens want further expansion. I did report about it, which is quite understandable. Eurosceptics are on the rise in Europe, and many people don't see any reason EU to exist at all. So of course they are simultaneously opposing any further expansion of EU. because it will take even more resources from EU member states. RT is reporting that Panama Channel drought hampering global trade. This is becoming quite an issue lately. Reduced water levels along the Panama Channel are disrupting global trade, forcing ships to sail longer routes and pay higher freight costs. Reuters report on Monday. Well, this is a big deal, of course, and that's why I'm quite sure it's only a matter of like 10, 15, maybe 20 years, and major sea trade route in the world will be northern sea route of Russia, which goes all along the northern coastline. It's already transports on an annual basis millions and millions of tons, but just give it to 10, 15 years, and this is gonna be major trade route for entire world, because it does makes distance almost twice as short as any alternative routes that are used by now, including Panama Channel, including Suez Channel, and so on. So huge potential for Russia in terms of further economical developments. If it's northern regions, because this northern sea route definitely will be big deal. Just give it 10, 15 years and it will happen. And the last news for today is, I hope, short update. How long is this video? Yes, quite short update. So RT is reporting that champagne sales in France fell 20% in year-on-year terms. Sales of champagne in France have dropped by more than 20% this year due to skyrocketing prices for sparkling beverage. The BFM Business TV channel reported on Tuesday the average price for a liter of champagne is reportedly hovering around 30 euros, causing the French to opt for alternatives such as Alsace, Cremant and Prosecco, which are up to 5 times cheaper. When I don't really like champagne. Here in former Soviet Union, vast majority of us ordinary people, we use champagne only for celebrations, and usually on New Year. For example, I do have a few bottles of champagne for New Year. Exclusively, we will open those champagnes on New Year, and that's it. And before next New Year, I will probably not even taste champagne. But maybe in other countries things are different. I don't know. Here, champagne not really costs too much. There are cheap options of sparkling wine. Champagne can be called only sparkling wine that made in Champagne province in France, isn't it? And all the other wines that are similarly made with similar technologies, they are just sparkling wines. They cannot be called champagne, but they are champagnes. And well, here in Russia, you can definitely buy one on a budget price. It's not a big issue, but for France it is. For France it is, because well, for France, wine industry is a huge, and any disturbance in this sector, of course, will have influence on France's economy. But let's hope winemakers in France will regain some momentum during the New Year, Christmas and New Year celebrations. I don't want any problems for nobody really, and well, I hope France wine industry will deal with issues. Let's end this video on optimistic note. Quite short video, only like 40 minutes, which is good. I hope you will find this news update interesting, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and share video with your friends. And if you think this channel, this project is interesting, useful, informative, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links under this video in description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. In short time, in several hours time, I will upload second update, and of course today I will also have a new episode of Telegram reports on Rumble exclusively. So please, if you are watching this video on YouTube, please consider to subscribe on my Rumble channel. You can see link under this video in description box or in the pinned comment. Okay, this is it for now. Have a great day and take care. See you soon.